This graphing calculator video follows along with Roman numeral 5 on the graphing calculator worksheet. I will be showing the keystrokes for the TI-84 calculators, those that have the latest operating system. Part 5, we're interested in evaluating a function at a given value. So remember, that really means we're finding a y value given a specific x value. So for this first curve, we have f of x equals negative 2x squared minus 5x plus 3, and we're looking to evaluate f of negative 14. So let's go ahead and put the curve into our calculator. So find your y equals in the upper left-hand corner, and let's put in negative 2x squared minus 5x plus 3. Now we're being asked to find f of negative 14, which remember, that means that we're inputting negative 14 here in place of x, or we're substituting negative 14 for x. And there are several different ways of doing this on the calculator, so I'm going to show you all of them. One option, remember, above the graph button, it says table, so we could use the table feature of the calculator. So second, table. And then you could just scroll through your table here until you found an x value of negative 14. So I see here that when x is negative 14, the corresponding y value is negative 319. In other words, f of negative 14 equals negative 319. Another way of evaluating the function at negative 14 would be using the graph. So we'll go ahead and go to zoom. And remember that we're always starting with 6, zoom standard. That way our window goes from negative 10 to positive 10 in both directions. And you should see your nice parabola that opens down. Now above the trace key, it says calculate. We use that menu quite a bit. So second calc pulls up your calculating menu. And you notice the very first one says value. So choose number 1. And now you're prompted to enter in any x value that you want to. But notice what happens if we enter in negative 14 and press enter. We get an error. Now the first option says to quit, but always choose the second option, which says go to, because your calculator will take you to where the error has occurred. And you look at where the cursor is, and you can see the calculator doesn't like that we have this negative. Now the reason for this is because our window only goes to negative 10 along the x-axis. So because negative 14 is not in our window, the calculator is giving us an error. So if we wanted to use the graph to calculate f of negative 14, we're going to have to adjust the window. So find your window button, and we need to change our x minimum. So why don't we choose something smaller than negative 14? How about negative 20? Go back to your graph. Now you can see we are seeing more along the x-axis here in the negative direction. And try second calculate again. Choose number 1. And now you should be able to input negative 14. For x, press enter. And you see it returns to us the corresponding y value. So when x equals negative 14, y equals negative 319. So again, that means f of negative 14 is equal to negative 319. So that's how you use both the table and the graph if you'd like to input a specific x value and find the corresponding y value. But my favorite way of doing this is from the home screen. So let's go second, quit, to come back to our home screen, because our calculator understands function notation. When we write f of negative 14, we're using function notation, and the calculator understands that. So to enter function notation, you have to use one of your shortcut menus. So remember, F1, F2, F3, and F4 are the 4 shortcut menus on the latest TI-84 calculators. And to access those menus, you have to use your alpha button. So go ahead and choose alpha, and we're going to go to F4, which is above the trace key. So alpha F4. And this is your shortcut menu that takes you to all of your y equals, y1, y2, and so on. Now, the curve that we have in the calculator right now, it's stored in our y1. So go ahead and just press enter, selecting y1. And now you're going to do parentheses, negative 14. So we're entering function notation in the calculator, but rather than writing f of negative 14, the way we have to do this on the calculator is we have to have y sub 1 of negative 14. So again, what this is doing is the calculator is taking negative 14 and it's substituting it in for x in the function that we have stored in our y1, which is the function that we inputted here at the beginning of the problem. And then just press enter, and you see it returns to us the y value, which is negative 319. So one more time, that would be alpha F4 is that shortcut menu. Enter, choosing the first one, y sub 1, and then parentheses negative 14. So you could input whatever x value you wanted, and it'll return to you the corresponding y value. Now, if you were curious, the longer version of how to find this, just in case you needed it, or maybe you were helping a friend on a different calculator, the longer way of finding this y sub 1 on the calculator is using the vars button. I'll go ahead and show you just so that you have that knowledge. So vars is right next to the clear key, stands for variables. You'll arrow to the right over to y vars, choosing number 1, which is function, and number 1 again. You can see here's the list of all of your y sub 1, y sub 2, and so on. So that would be the long way of finding your y sub 1. If you're on these updated calculators though, I certainly hope you'll use the shortcut menu, alpha F4, and that'll return to you the corresponding y value.